Good morning. This is Dr. McDaniel back at you with morning sickness, nausea, vomiting of pregnancy, or hyperemesis gravidarum if it's severe. So I began the presentation on Monday, 2 days ago, speaking about morning sickness, continued it yesterday, and today should be the final installation on the morning sickness. The reason why it's called morning sickness is because it's nausea, vomiting of pregnancy, and predominantly women in their first. Hold on, sorry, I'm trying to get my phone plugged in because the light back on. Get my phone plugged in because the phone's dying. So women in the first trimester of pregnancy will have nausea and vomiting of pregnancy predominantly upon rising, so that's in the morning. And however, as most women know, the morning sickness can persist throughout the day, so it's morning, afternoon, evening, before bed, even for some people. But the majority of women will be in the first trimester, so it'll be between 4 and 9 weeks of pregnancy predominantly, usually tapers off closer to 10 to 12 weeks of pregnancy, and very rarely, so less than 5% of women with morning sickness will have nausea, vomiting of pregnancy that persists throughout the entire pregnancy until they deliver. As I stated previously, around 25% or so of pregnant women will have morning sickness. Predominantly it's nausea, and it can include vomiting if it gets severe. We don't get super excited if someone's having nausea early in the morning, as long as they're able to keep enough fluids down to maintain a normal blood pressure and so that they're not feeling ill. And as I stated earlier this week and recommended, I always recommend that if you keep a little bit of food in your stomach throughout the day, that will definitely decrease nausea for most women. So I always recommend the saltine crackers because of the salt helps maintain the blood pressure, and then the carbohydrate, just a little, like one cracker broken up per hour should be enough. You don't want to get too hungry, you don't want to get too full, you don't want to eat spicy foods or really sweet or rich foods. They tend to exacerbate the nausea. You don't want to mix liquids with solid foods for whatever reason. The mixture tends to make a lot of women feel nauseated, so you want to separate liquids from foods by at least a half an hour to an hour or more. And I always recommend sports drinks, so Gatorade, Powerade, or the Pedialyte, or you can make it yourself. So I gave a recipe previously. Most people are aware that ginger helps decrease nausea. So if you boil or steep ginger, slice up or rather shred some ginger, put it in a cheesecloth, boil it for half an hour or so, let it steep, and then you just pour that ginger liquid, or what you've now made is ginger tea, pour that ginger tea into a container, and then you just want to add a couple of pinches of pink Himalayan salt, some lemon juice to balance out the salty taste, a little bit of honey to taste, and then I always think a pinch of cinnamon is nice in it, but that's to one's discretion. And then if you sip that throughout the day, the salts with the lemon juice, the honey, and the ginger will always help decrease nausea. Just sip a little bit of that, either warm or cold, it's fine, throughout the day. I always recommend that before rising you take a few sips of that liquid, or you can drink room temperature ginger ale is also fine. Have a few sips of that before you get out of bed, before you rise, and then just alternate little corner, little piece of cracker, alternate that with a few sips of the ginger drink. That works really well to decrease nausea. And then to find a pattern, to see what pattern of foods works well versus doesn't work well. If someone has a lot of nausea, vomiting, they're feeling weak, tired, headaches, or fainting, they should come to the emergency room, or urgent care. They're not going to give you IV, so it's going to have to be the emergency room. Come to the emergency room and you'll get IV hydration with salts and sugars, And if someone is losing more than 5 pounds, so you can lose 2 or 3 pounds of water weight in a week, but if it's 5 pounds or more, then usually we'll have you come to the ER, hydrate you, and then we may keep you until you can tolerate at least liquids before you leave. If you can't tolerate liquids before you leave, most women will receive a rectal suppository of an antiemetic, so a rectal suppository medicine to decrease vomiting. And then if you still can't tolerate fluids, you'll usually be admitted to the hospital to continue gastric rest, which is nothing in your stomach, for at least 24 to 48 hours, and then you'll be sent home or discharged home with just a clear liquid diet. So clear means you can see through the liquids. That's going to be just drinks. For whatever reason, water doesn't work really well for most women, but that ginger concoction or the room temperature ginger ale or the sports drinks work well, just sipping throughout the day. You can also have bouillon or broth because those are clear. Most women can tolerate those. You could put those also in another bottle and just sip the bouillon or the broth throughout the day. I always recommend people do just that clear liquid diet for a week. And then if they feel okay after a week, to graduate that to full liquids. Full liquids means liquids that aren't clear, so any type of soup is fine, or a smoothie if someone can tolerate a smoothie, as long as it's not too sweet, not too heavy, so a lot of ice, and then I would recommend a lot of ice, and then with the smoothie, ginger ale. So with the smoothie, one could put bananas because bananas have potassium. You need that for salts, electrolytes. So I would recommend a lot of ice, the ginger ale, or the ginger drink that I recommended, and then a lot of bananas. If you mix that up and sip that, that would be a good idea for a smoothie. And then do just the full liquids for a week. After that, soft solids, and soft solids would be kind of mushy, bland food. So jellos or puddings, banana pudding or vanilla pudding or tapioca, rice pudding, if one likes rice pudding is fine, jello, any of the jellos are good, and then continue the liquid sipping throughout the day for a solid week, and then the last week would be regular solid foods, just as I said, just little bits at a time, and then alternating with liquids, not mixing the two together. Hyperemesis gravidarum is nausea, vomiting of pregnancy or morning sickness that someone is not able to take liquids or solids at all, so they're admitted for that, and or they have severe nausea, vomiting of pregnancy throughout the day, throughout the pregnancy, so it goes beyond the first trimester. And usually women in that scenario will need to be repetitively or repeatedly admitted to the hospital for IV hydration, and then if they still can't tolerate even just a clear liquid diet on the outside at home, then they're given an NG tube, which is a nasogastric tube. So it's a tube that goes through the nose into the stomach to deliver nutrients directly into their stomach. That's a severe case, but I have seen it done over the years for women who just, for whatever reasons, they just can't tolerate taking fluids or any kind of nutrition, or they can't maintain the recommended amount of fluids or nutrition on their own. But at least with the nasogastric tube, that allows them to mobilize. They don't have to stay in the hospital. They can go home, and then they just get their bloods monitored, electrolytes monitored, and their urine monitored to make sure that they're maintaining a normal balance. So I think that's about it. I hope that's been helpful on morning sickness or hyperemesis gravidarum. This is Dr. McDaniel. You can reference the prior Facebook presentations for Monday the 3rd, Tuesday the 4th, Wednesday the 5th. I think I started on Monday, so yeah, today's the last day, June 6th. And you can also reference the YouTube channel has all of the talks since I began this. I've been doing a presentation a day on obstetrical, gynecological, women's health issues every day since April. I believe it was the first week of April or so. Everything's nicely delineated there. And then we're here in Midtown Manhattan. If you're in the tri-state area, you can come by the office. I'll be happy to see anyone who's watching the presentations. Everyone have a great rest of the day. It's very nice here in New York City. Today's Thursday, and we'll be back Friday tomorrow. Have a great rest of the day. Thank you.